coaches are becoming more like leaders and leaders are becoming more like coaches.
Welcome to Back to the Future podcast. My name is Victor Sadia, and I talk with brilliant minds and hearts of people who want to uproot and transform the current health and wellness paradigm. Margaret Moore, also known as Coach Meg, is a trailblazer in wellness coaching. After a 17-year career as a biotech executive, she founded Wellcoaches Corporation in 2000, training over 16,000 professionals worldwide. She co-founded the Institute of Coaching at McLean Hospital in Harvard University and helped establish the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching. Author of the Coaching Psychology Manual and other books, she continues to shape the future of coaching through science-based leadership and system change. In this episode, Margaret opens with a powerful story of personal transformation that reconnected her to a long-dormant joy and vitality. Through practices like hypnotherapy, she explores how healing the subconscious can unlock new dimensions of presence and purpose. We talk about what it means to take full emotional responsibility as a leader and how the boundaries between coaching and leading are often more porous than we think. Margaret reflects on the loneliness of visionary leadership and how the best guides are often those quietly integrating their own growth. We also discuss how coaches are increasingly stepping into leadership roles and how leadership itself may be evolving in response. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today we have Margaret Moore. Coach Meg, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Victor. It's a delight to be with you.
Before we started recording, you were telling me that you have been in a process of detoxifying for 5 years and that you've been shedding a lot of things, a lot of heavy things in your body, in your bodies, I would say. And that you had a peak experience a few months ago where you felt happy as you have never felt in decades, since your teens. Coming from you, this is no simple statement. You know, you've been fine, you've been successful, you've been working, you've been delivering a lot of things and changing a lot of people's lives. So naming a peak experience like this one in your recent past, in your recent life, I think it's something powerful that I would like to hear more about from.
Well, thank you, Victor. I'm glad we're starting there because it's a private experience, and I'd say that it's the beginning of it. So it's nice that we're diving in right now because these things are obviously for everybody to appreciate and enjoy, but we as the folks here are also benefiting from this experience. It's a real experience. So I welcome that. I have a very clear and unchanged sense. It's been with me for a long time. When I was 15 and I was in high school, I was a cheerleader. I played trombone in a band. I was in a good place, but I was very surprised, because in my physical education class, I was on a volleyball team. But I'm not an athlete. Like, everything was hard for me. Like, I just barely was in the middle. And my teacher, who I didn't have a particularly close relationship with and didn't see myself as being, of any need to have, I didn't get a lot of attention from her. I didn't really, decided that I would win a scholarship to go to a leadership camp of people coming out of physical fitness and education, so I thought, a leadership camp? So she picked me out of the class, and it was this, it was all paid, and we went off. I don't remember if it was a week or two, but it was up in Canada in the beautiful lakes, and it was a big experience. And it was a push because I was with athletes. The guys were hockey players, the girls were athletes, and we did some pretty physically strong, demanding things, and the toughest things that I've done. And I really stood out and got through it, and And there's a picture of me sitting, and when you see it, and I can send it with the podcast, and you can just tell I am fully whole and in my element in this moment. I am keeping up. I am with the universe. I'm humble because I'm not in different ways than when you're like a leader where you're sort of the boss. In this situation, I was just in amongst the group, and I was in this wonderful state and a flow. It was really in flow. And this is just in the last few weeks. I was saying to my husband, I am now feeling the same way as I did then. I have not felt that way ever since. And brings tears to my eyes because of course I knew deep down that I didn't have that state. And ironically, it's the moment that I'm publishing a co-authored book on leadership. You know, that is the joy of my life. It's not the only thing I'm doing by far, but it is a joy to be bringing this out. And I'm just coming into those moments where I feel like that, like I did. So it's just it just sort of, I woke up recently and said, wow, I've always looked at that picture of myself and said, I've never felt the same as I did then. And I don't know if I ever will. I don't know if I'll ever have that same sense. So that's kind of an interesting experience that you know, I don't know how many you talk to a lot of people. I don't think it's that common to have a peak experience in your teens and then not have it again. It's almost as though everything that has happened since between then and now was preparing me for this moment. And I'm 67, so this is 52 years ago. This is not like 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Like I wouldn't even have known that I would feel like that again. I'm not sure I would have even predicted it. So, and of course, which means I didn't know it was coming. I never had the thought I'm going to have this again because it was my youth, right? And I mean, being young is amazing, right? It just is. And so, yeah, so that is the back to the future.
Exactly. And how, I do believe that peak experiences, although they can be pointed in a specific date and time in our lifetimes, they transcend that space and time, and they become part of us, not only of our future, but also of our past. Like a peak experience, even at 67, it changes the past, right? It changes how Margaret was living through all those years. And likewise, if it's an early experience, it will color every other experience, even if you cannot attest to the same feeling or the same intense feeling throughout the time. In a sense, you are still that 15-year-old today. And in that sense, you were 67 when you were 15.
I know. I mean, it's very recognizable. Like, and if I didn't have the photo, there's one photo, there's two actually. You can just, you can, I mean, I'd be curious to see when I show it to you what you think of it, but I see me now in that picture. I mean, I did have longer hair. It was blonde. My hair is longer than it's been since my 30s, so it's not as long as it was then. But there's a way that I was holding myself, the physical shape. I'm the same weight and the same size as I was then, which most people aren't, and you probably are. So I never really lost the physical side of it or the emotional or mental. So yeah, thanks for that observation.
Thank you. How much do you talk about childhood in the realm of leadership and the realm of coaching? How much do we evoke our childhood experiences and identities to find or to remember assets, emotions, tools, experiences that we can recall, reuse as coaches or leaders?
Gosh, well, as a coach, talking about childhood is minimal in leadership coaching. Maybe in well-being, you might do a bit more, but mostly we've left it behind. But then I think in our personal reflections, I mean, I spend an hour a day in my own form of meditative state. I our team at Wellcoaches, just all 8 of us got certified as hypnotherapists. We did this very deep training in January, 100 hours in 8 days. And it was an adventure. We wanted to bring self-hypnosis to coaches as a way to inner peace, but it was none of us set out to be hypnotherapists, except for one of us. One of us had always wanted to be a hypnotherapist, but we learned how to do it. And it was all of us in one way or another went back to our childhoods, because the state of hypnosis is a state that you live in as a kid. You're basically inside out. Your subconscious is out. Your conscious mind is back. That's all it is. And once you understand it and you realize kids walk around in this because their conscious minds are not, you realize it's a highly natural state that we just, there's nothing weird about it. I mean, you can go take psilocybin or ketamine and get there through drugs, but it isn't really anything new. And so of course then, when you go into the States, your various things come back up from your childhood. So I think it's always with us. I think maybe, I don't know about you, but certainly at this stage of my life, more of it comes up. That's apparently something that happens as you get older. Your childhood and what happened comes up more. When my parents died at different times, it came up. So it's with me. It's in my dreams. It's always with me. I don't know if it's always with everybody else. So I think we're constantly questioning how it influences our current state, and the innocence and joy. If for those of us who had moments like that, that they can remember, and those moments there's something pure and true about them, and you can see it in our pictures, and you can see it in the pictures when you're not happy too. So I think there's secrets there that that are worth trying to understand. I mean, the one that came up for me, which was not a positive experience, because I was locked out of my room twice, and one for 2 hours at 8 o'clock at night. I had no dinner. I had no wallet. I was stuck after a 12-hour day, because the staff didn't, you can feel my energy. The staff didn't know how to recharge the lock. And it took them 2 hours, and then they didn't do it properly. So it broke again. So, when you're living in a hotel for 8 days, you need your room, your food, your change of clothing, just to sit and you just relax and get out of the fray. So, I had this victim energy. And, so I went, in one of the hypnosis practices, I went back and I saw this sofa with a doll sitting on it. And I remembered, which I hadn't before, the memory of my realizing, oh no, I'm a girl. I'm a doll. I have to be a doll. I don't want to be a girl. I don't want to be a doll. And that set in place a dynamic of being a victim. That's not what I want to be. Only because I didn't want to be a doll. And that has stayed with me until that moment when I saw it. I thought, oh, that's where that came from. And that started a whole bunch of things. I'm a girl. I have to be a girl. And I didn't think I could be another gender. I didn't want to be a boy, actually. I didn't want to. I just didn't want to be a doll. But back in those days, the dolls were all girls, right? And you're like, however old I was, 3, 2, 4, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I made the connection. So that kind of thing, it travels all the way through, and it creates strain, and so yeah, it's I think if you do the work, and I do, I know you do too, your childhood is going to get reprocessed over and over and over until you've gotten what you need from it. Because it is an arc. A life is an arc. And there's meaning in that arc. And I think if you really take some time to understand it, not overdo it, and not be trapped by it, more be a student of it. What does this mean? Why did this happen?
Yes.
What is its long purpose? Because I do think there is an arc of a whole lifetime, and the beginning, the middle, and the end, they all make sense. I remember my mother saying, when she was in her mid-60s, just before she died, that she had come to the realization that all the threads of her life finally came together, and that and she was ready to go. Interestingly, she had her own issue. She had cancer, and multiple myeloma, was very sick. So she was at the end. But yeah, I remember her saying that. So I think, yeah, I think the threads all come together and it all makes
Yeah.
sense.
I believe, at least my personal experience recently has been, with therapy and it's been understanding my childhood. But now I see some possibilities of going back to my childhood and talk to that little boy and take that little boy from the hand and show him that conundrum that he had at that time, or like yours, of the need for you to become a doll when you didn't want it, and playing with that little child so that the child also re-signifies how it signified that specific event
Yeah,
that
rewiring it.
colored the whole
Yeah.
life. Yeah. And with hypnosis and all these things,
Yeah, you
it's
can. You
possible.
can.
Yeah. You can
Yeah,
even
you
go to the
can
womb,
rewire.
right?
That's right. Yes, yes. And yeah, hypnosis done right, it takes you back to the earliest time that the dilemma arose and rewires it. Because the subconscious, you can't the conscious mind can't rewire the subconscious very well.
Yeah.
That's why
That's the
it's so
thing.
hard, because it happened to the subconscious, not the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is sort of trying to figure it out, like what happened to me? Like
Yeah.
how can I get myself out of this emotional, hamster wheel? And that's a beautiful thing about both internal family systems therapy, because you also go back and talk to the early parts. But yeah, there thankfully in our, we do have these techniques that can do it. It's not easy. So you have to really, you have to find the right way to do it. But it's really worthwhile because these things can be rewired. And it'd be nice to do them while you still can enjoy the post rewiring experience.
Yeah. I'm thinking about leaders in the corporate world, Fortune 500 CEOs and political leaders. You have worked with many, and I don't see, how important would be for people in those positions to take an hour of their time each day to go into, in this case, a
Yeah,
hypnotic state, right? Or to just say, okay, what I just said to my employee or what I just said in camera did came, or at least the emotion did came from something that I have unresolved from my past. That's
yeah, to
yeah.
own them. Yeah. Well, in the book, we introduced a great concept called the quiet ego, which is established by Jack Bauer and Heidi Waymont. They're working on a book on it. They've got papers on it. They've got ways to measure it. And the quiet ego is the ego that has integrated the major, there's no crack in the foundation. You've healed or outgrown whatever you had, and made strength out of the adversity. And some of us maybe are born with a quieter ego, but it's work to get there. So I think that some leaders are interested. So Eric Kaufman and he does more of this than I do, but he runs a year-long program now, and he does weekends. He's a Buddhist, where he takes people through a very intense, deep conscious raising experience to integrate, to heal the unhealed. Lots of us, not a lot of us do this. There's a few of us in coaching who do this really, really deep work. I mean, it's not mainstream. But there are a bunch of us, and there's a bunch of leaders who are willing to go there. The folks that go to Burning Man, that big event, there definitely are the folks who are pushing the edges of their consciousness more than there used to be. So it's not the mainstream, but there are. And so there, this is it's a choice, it's an investment. It's hard to run a public like to work 70 hours a week and do this. I have the flexibility of a work life where I use this in my work, so I'm doing it to help leaders. So my investment in my own quiet ego is to promote my ability to support people, because the quieter it is, the more I can see the unquiet and the more I can help people. So I think, this transformative growth. Another way to think about it is Jack Bauer's book, The Transformative Self. I might have talked to you about this when we were in Florida, but he's got 4 domains of well-being. I think everybody listening would appreciate that. And most people are happy with the first 2. The first 2 are pleasure, you're satisfied with your life and you're enjoying your life. So you've got positive emotions and life satisfaction. So you've used your talents well. You can look back and say, I did a good job with what I had. The next level, which most people are doing, is the meaning, the love. I'm fulfilling my values. It's important for me to make a contribution in some way as a parent, as a leader, as a teacher, as a whatever role I play in the world, whether it's a nonprofit or a big company. You might be making bamboo toothbrushes, which are saving the amount of plastic that goes into the ocean. So whatever you're doing, that's meaningful. So that's the fulfillment. The other two, fewer and fewer people are interested. The next one is wisdom. And I think that's what you're getting at here, right? The wisdom and it is independent of the other two. So you can be a seeker of wisdom and not have a lot of pleasure or meaning. They work differently. They're different parts of our structure. But the fourth one is growth, the transformative self. And only 1% or 2% of the population has that. So that's people like me, probably you, who need to grow, which means we have to put ourselves into adverse situations. We have to choose the hard path, not because of any other reason, because we know that growth is something we want. If everybody wanted that, coaches would be very busy. We have to hide the growth in the other things.
Yes.
Because most people are just trying to have a good life, enjoy themselves, and do something meaningful. The wisdom, okay, maybe, but it's not a central thing. I don't want to be the sage with dispensing and most people don't respect, the elders of us don't, nobody's coming to us for our wisdom for the most part today, maybe in other cultures, but the growth it gets fewer and fewer and fewer. So what you're talking about in terms of mining your childhood is you're doing it for the wisdom and growth, not for the meaning and the pleasure and the satisfaction. So you have to be driven. And so there's just fewer and fewer people in that place. And I think a lot of people are kind of interested in it, and more than ever, there's more and more people, but if everybody wanted wisdom and growth, coaching would be a much bigger deal. But most
Yeah,
people just want to they just don't have the bandwidth. It's just life is big enough as it is without trying to do those things.
yeah, yeah. I get you, and yes. However, I would like to ask you, like you're giving, yeah, systemic reasons on why people don't have the bandwidth, the time, even the possibility of walking those paths. In terms of that's a path that it's walkable. It is not even presented
Yeah.
as an option. You wrote a leadership book, but basically putting together all the science that we had on leadership up until now. And you say somewhere in the book, you said, getting a study of an effective leadership practice like forgiveness or humility published in a scientific journal requires hundreds of hours and thousands of watts of brain power only to reach a small island of readers and miss an ocean of leaders. And that's where want to get to, because we do need the science so that people understand that this is some hard thing, that it's science based and everything. We do need that in our Western culture. However, we might still be lost in the details of hard science to talk about something so I don't know what word to describe something like forgiveness or humility, which it can be described in scientific terms, but it probably goes beyond that. Not the explanation, but the practice itself, right? It's not a one, two, three step methodology to forgive or to be humble. My question here is, what needs to change in the cultural zeitgeist so that these things like humility and forgiveness are cherished not only as nice extras, but as the basis for obviously happiness and everything, but also to economic and success and all the things that the Western community do values very obviously, right? When you think about a leader, you think about a guy in a yacht initially, and then you think about him or her in another realm. So I don't know if you see where exactly I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I think there's this sense still that leadership is you have to be really tough and strong and forceful and show the way and maybe even be mean and critical and impatient and angry to get the best out of people. That's basically the struggle that we have right now, is the debate between, is goodness tough enough to get the same results as meanness and judgment, harshness? Is harshness versus goodness? That debate is very much still alive, because secretly people, I mean, there's a big discussion, of course, here about Elon Musk and Donald Trump and leaders like that. And there's plenty of, there's, but the literature shows that toxic leadership is toxic. And it's possible that the results would be just the same without the meanness and the toxicity and the harm, because you're basically creating the same things that, coming back to childhood, that damaged kids. Why wouldn't it damage adults? Why all of a sudden as adults are we, you wouldn't treat a kid like this and expect them to grow. Why do we think that adults are going to reform? That formula is not, we're not done with that. We're not over that conversation. We're still in a place where there's a lot of people that think that, to some extent, what Trump and Elon Musk have accomplished wouldn't have if they weren't at some times, in some situations, toxic. So I think, here's how I think about it. I think that some of us just aren't willing to do that, can't pay us to do that. And I think there's more of us now than there used to be. And the research shows that toxic leadership doesn't bring the best out of people. So that's what the research is saying. Many of us are just not willing to do that. And so the two are kind of coming together to a place where you're going to have more and more pockets of humane toughness. Toughness doesn't go away. That's not, we're not talking about not being tough. I mean, I'm tough.
Yes.
Very tough. And as tough as they may come, I think, in the sense of, I know what needs to be done and how to do it. And I have to hold back to be nice a lot. A lot. I have to smooth off those hard edges and and stay in a place of compassion.
And has that worked for you personally? Not institutionally, but personally.
Well, I used to be, in my 30s, I was known to be aggressive and direct. And so, and not everybody liked it. And I was criticized for that. And I think then I went too far the other way and got more careful. Now I think I still wrestle with, I want to say this to this person, you know. So I'm still, so in personality structure, I'm a thinker, an NT in Myers-Briggs. And us thinkers think about feelings. I mean, that's just what happens, I'm not a feeler first. I can really work with my feelings. I mean, like I can feel them but I'm here and my feelings are here. I'm not, and I do get lost in them and they do drive me but I'm very aware of what's going on. I'm thinking about my feelings. The feelers are in their feelings and the thinking mind is, so we've got two different kinds of people here. And the women, it's roughly 50-50 from the anecdotal data. Half of us are feelers, and there's 60% men feelers and thinkers and 40. So men and women both have both, right? So we've got it all going on. So the thinkers are just going to be, we can be cold because thinking is ice cold objectivity. What's the truth? That part of us, we all have it. And if you have it, you can be cold. I mean, I can feel it. I can tell you when I can show it to you you
Sure.
want to feel the chill.
Sure.
I know where
The-
it is. It's a part of me. So we all have it, and then we have the warm side. So the thing is, everybody knows now, for the most part, unless you're a a brilliant tyrant, then you can get away with it. Maybe less so now.
yeah.
But so yeah, so it is about it. You don't change the cold objectivity because the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
And it may not be easy to hear, but
Yeah.
you have to warm it up so people can absorb it.
Eh, Yeah, and but that you are happy with that, making those concessions, or working through your yang when you are a yin or whatever. Personally, you like that integration of your in your personality, even though that it's not the initial set that you grew up
Yeah,
with.
I mean, you can't lead if you can't
Yeah.
do this
Tell me
because you're going to
something
get
that,
pushed around because feelings are, come from old places and needs. They're not, they're you own your own emotional repertoire, your motivation, your drives, I mean, they are your tiger inside, right? And nobody else is responsible for that.
mm,
Um, and that's where I think people go wrong. They think that other people are causing the emotions, but they're actually yours. They're your being producing emotions to tell you something, but it's your message to you, not to other people. And we get a little confused on that. Like,
mhm,
they're not for you, they're for me.
absolutely.
And so, leaders who are coming from a place of anger and impatience and irritation need to own that. And it's coming from fear,
Yeah.
usually. So it's not the way to go. So I think we're coming into a place where the combination of compassion and the hard coldness of toughness are coming together in certain people, and that those will be the new role models who will transform the world. And we won't
Mm.
be stuck with only the male
Yeah.
Venus,
Yeah.
the Putins and the
Sure.
Yiping and the
I'm glad that archetype is very much clear now to everyone. Like you can go for that archetype, or you can reject the archetype, but the archetype it's there. Like we understand
yeah,
when you say that, and that's a good
yeah,
thing because it has a name and has so
yeah.
many
Yeah, we
examples
can
and
actually get
avatars.
objective about it and we can say, is it working and how could it work better?
Yeah.
It's really a question of could you keep the brilliance and bring about the same results
Yeah.
with a compassion for the response to that from other people. Because it's hard to be in the presence of brilliance. It's really hard because it makes everybody feel badly, right? Nobody wants to be less smart than the other people. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Really smart people don't have an easy time.
Yeah.
And
There's
they
a
get,
definition
they
you
get
use, yeah, for coach when you say that, coach is the one who holds space, is not the one who fills space. And I suspect that a leader can also be defined in that way, although it's not as obvious as it is for the coach as for the leader, right?
Yeah, there are two ways of being with other people, and how you use them and how much you use them is different, but the two are the same. They're two sides of the coin, where the leader is guiding because they know where things need to go. They can see what the other person can't see, and therefore they have the ability to guide others to see that's the challenge with leadership, is that you see further ahead than other people. You see more, you see broader. They don't see it. And you could like yell at them and say, you need to see it. You need to see what I see. Or you guide them there. But you still, you can coach them and they're not going to see it. You have to show them. You have to turn the light on and say it's there and here's why. And then maybe they'll come back to you, as it happens to me all the time. 5 years later, say, yeah, you saw it then and I didn't understand it. I see it now. That's happened to me. And that's the hard thing about these tough leaders that are mean, because they're frustrated. They're entitled to be angry because I mean, it's not easy. This is not a fun place. You're alone when you see further than other people. It's not a fun place to be. And it's a lonely place to be. And it as long as you see further ahead, that it's still going to be lonely. People are not going to, because as soon as they catch up, you're already 5 years ahead again. So you're never going to be around people that are actually right where you are right now. So there's a reason why they're mean. They've paid a price for their ability. And there's that anger is coming back to the childhood, right? It's coming from a genuine place. It's not, we don't just become mean because we learned it somewhere for some reason.
As much as I would like, I'm calling myself a leader in this conversation, definitely, not trying to hide my humility. As leader, what I when I have those moments where I am able to see far and beyond in time and space, the thing that I try to do is to heal publicly, right? So that whatever I'm trying to push for the future, I'm still showing everyone that I'm still, even though I can see it, I'm not there yet. I still have much to heal. And in that sense, it becomes obviously very, it's a vulnerable thing to do. People will connect to you when you are transparent and sharing feelings and but also for me is an honest thing to do, right? Because it's not the vision does not entail the healing. As you say, leaders
There's
are
no back.
angry and they are right to be angry. So how to keep channeling that anger, that fear, that loneliness through the community that you're trying to guide.
Mhm.
And if these words help others to heal, great, but it's still the best way for me to keep talking about the future, not believing that I'm already there. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so what you're doing is you're being transparent about your vision and the gaps between here and there. You're using the word healing because you're proposing that you need to get stronger and heal some things to get there. Another approach, that's the feeler's approach. The thinker's approach would say, um, there's a lot of things that have to happen, and I'm not sure they're going to happen and how, and I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to do that. So either way is fine. Um, and in a way, I mean, I'm trying to think about like, so when I started Well Coaches 25 years ago, I had a vision, and a lot of people came along with that vision and saw it too. Thousands and thousands of coaches, and we're still not there yet. And I'm thinking now as we talk, you know, what do they think of me having put this vision together? And now it's taken so long. And I've always painted an optimistic picture of we're getting there. We've made this stride, we've made that stride. And somehow that's been enough for people to say, yeah, um, it can happen. But the in good part, I think the vision would have happened anyway without my vision. So it's not a vision that I own. It's lots of people have that same vision. But I think the way I look at where I am as a leader, I think that it makes it easier for people to deal with the uncertainty if they know somebody is completely focused on getting around all the obstacles and isn't going to quit until we do. So that's really what I'm bringing is this determination and persistence. And that gives people a sense, okay, I'm glad I'm not you. I agree with the vision, and I'm glad you're willing to put in the effort to get there. And you're working harder than other people at doing that. And so there's this combination of I see it, I see what's in the way, personally, what's in my way as a leader, what's in the real way in terms of the obstacle course. But people can see that you have the fortitude, vision, creativity, determination, whatever it requires to get there. And therefore, no matter how you put it, they see you are going to get there. That's people can intuit that this person might get there. That's what you say when you're trying to get investors in a new venture. They're investing in you not because of what you got right now, but because they think you might get there and that you might actually have the right people and the right resources to do that. That's what they're investing in, whether they're making a financial investment or they're joining your company or they're part of your team or they're, going for a bike ride with you, whatever. They see that you might have what it takes to get there. So that's what you're bringing. It's the three things. It's the vision, it's the accurate understanding of what you're up against. And then there's the ability to get there that they trust. And they need that. That's why leaders are needed.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to, like right now in the US, what's making the economic roller coaster more palatable is that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, I don't know if you've heard of him or watched anything, is sensible and has a vision and understands the global instability that, in that some countries are producers and some are consumers, and that's creating really big problems, and that it's not exactly clear how it's all going to be fixed, but it needs that vision is we need to fix this. And when you have someone who has the skill and experience of working at that macro level and pulling the big levers, and I'm sure it's almost impossible to do,
Mm.
but there's somebody
Still.
there that
Hmm.
sounds like they might know how to do it. And
Yeah,
maybe not, but that's calming things down. So that's what I mean.
yeah.
There's
And
a
it's also
picture,
accepting.
big problems, but there's a person at least, and maybe a team that one can see, you know what? I think they might actually have a crack at this.
Yes,
Everybody's saying, some people are saying no, it's impossible. Some, it's all this noise, but it's not, that's how what leadership is. It's often one person or a small group who see the way, don't know every step. That's
true.
transformational leadership.
And at the same time, is also understanding that change takes time and we need generational shifts, right? They are immersed in the political system where they have to deliver results before the term is up. But, you know, systemic change will need a generational change.
Yeah.
And
But you
that's
can
why it's
move the
possible.
boat off
Yeah.
the sand and into the water so that it's
Yes.
and then people can pull it forward. But it's the getting the boat in the water and getting it moving takes a big lift.
Yeah.
And that's what leaders do. They lift something heavy over a period of time and get it
Beautiful.
sailing.
Beautiful metaphor. I'm thinking about you as the founder of Well Coaches, that you not only delivered a company that trains coaches successfully, but changes the definition of what a coach is. And in that sense, changes the identity of the coach. The three levels of insight of Anne Clancy. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're familiar with that. Yeah,
Jacqueline Pinker. Yeah, no,
and
I
Jacqueline Binker, they say new skill. Then you have perspective shifts like beliefs and attitudes, but then the quantum shifts come
identity.
from self-identity shifts.
Exactly. No, well said. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
and
great way to think about neuroplasticity in stages. Yeah.
and you're coming to our lifestyle medicine conference next month, and I'm happy because in a sense I'm in the same trajectory that you began 25 years ago, which is not only giving new skills to health professionals and beliefs and attitudes, but also right redefining what a doctor is, what a psychologist is, what a health coach is. That's a big gift and it's a big responsibility that we're taking upon our shoulders to deliver in time. But I love it because at the end of the day, the self identity it's the hardest part to change, but the one that has much more impact. And I think aiming for that big vast ocean is a worthy goal.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that. I mean, the identity that I see for coaches is that we're a force for well-being through integration rather than healing. Because integration is the well-being side of healing. They're the same thing, really.
Yeah,
It's the same process. It just depends on whether you're starting from pain and moving to no pain, or you have no pain and you're moving to joy. It doesn't, it's not like a different thing, but we're focused, well coaches and coaches are very focused on that. And then the second thing is, I do think that's why it'll be interesting to see how the science of leadership is going to play in the well-being space,
mm,
because this is what I want to do. I didn't I didn't sort of go out to the coaches and say, what do you guys want next? This is what I've been waiting to do for a long time. And I think that without necessarily aiming for it, I think the well coaches are leaders.
mm,
And I do think coaching is leading
mm.
if you're a good
Beautiful.
leader. I don't think it's just coaching. And I don't mean consulting, and I don't mean mentoring, and I don't mean teaching or training. I mean leading in a real way, like I'm a leader, and in this moment, you're a follower. Not like you work for me, but I'm showing you the way. that is that and the only way you can do that is if you do it well. Like if you're not good at it, like that's why it's hard to consult and coach, because if you make the wrong, if you don't get it right, you're, it's the end of your coaching assignment, because people are not going to pay for somebody that gives them the wrong advice. So you have to be a leader, you have to be intuitive, you have to know what you have to see the light. And so you can't ask everybody to do that. But I do think that the inherent approach we take in training coaches at Well Coaches helps people grow into leaders. And I see that now. The Well Coaches coaches are leaders in the field. And maybe they get it because of who I am and what, I don't know where it comes from, but I really think I think that coaches are becoming more like leaders and leaders are becoming more like coaches. We still stay in our lanes. And I go back and forth all the time. Which one am I better at? I
Yeah.
know all the time, like which one should
Yeah.
I spend more time with,
Eh,
because I can do both. But I do, I do think I'm probably better at leading. And at this stage of my life, it's
but as you say, like when is it useful to differentiate those two words, leading and coaching, and when they're the same, right? Sometimes we use those terms because the people who are hearing us or reading us do need one or two. But in your lived experience, professionally, personally, spiritually, intellectually, it's the same for you. I'm being a leader and a coach at the same time, and a healer and an integrator. Like those big words might belong to different realms, but in your lived experience, being a healer, an integrator, a leader, and a coach, it's the same.
yeah, which means we're expanding to include those four quadrants,
Mm,
which is that leadership is fostering wisdom and growth, not just meaning and
mm,
satisfaction.
yeah.
And the people who know what that is will know what I mean, and the folks that are not there are just not there. It's not where that's not what their lives are about. I mean, Jack Bauer makes the point that most people are fine with a life that brings satisfaction, pleasure, and meaning.
Mhm.
And why would we ask for more than that? That's enough.
Thank you. As always, it's a pleasure sharing with you. Um, you were basically not the first person, but the first person that really struck me when I saw in public speaking, like in a short conference you gave like 5 6 years ago in Mexico City, and I followed your work, read your books, and when I got to meet you a few months ago, I was very excited because I was secure enough in my own skin to approach you and to talk to you horizontally,
Yeah.
and that's something you allowed also for me to do. So you've guided me for a long time, and now I'm very happy and honored to call you my friend, and very excited to have you as a speaker at the Lifestyle Medicine Congress in June. Thank you so much for your
Me
work
too.
and for this space, Margaret, to share your life, your story, and your passion with me.
Thank you, Victor. It's just fabulous. Thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you.